Okay, so have you ever thought about, like, what happens when you mix national security stuff with the way people communicate today?
Oh, yeah, all the time.
Like, how does that work? Does it even work?
Especially when it stirs up some controversy.
Right, and that is exactly what we're looking into in this deep dive today.
Oh, cool.
It's all about this reported incident involving sharing information about maybe some military action happening against the Houthis in Yemen.
Yemen.
Yeah, so we've got two big names at the center of this thing.
Okay.
Jeffrey Goldberg from The Atlantic.
Right.
And Pete Hegseth.
Now he was...
And he was reportedly the defense secretary at the time during the Trump administration.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And
Trump administration we're talking.
Yeah. So this was a while back.
Gotcha.
And to make this whole thing even more interesting, we've also got Vice President J.D. Vance and National Security Advisor Michael Waltz.
Oh, wow. Okay.
All reportedly involved in this whole digital communication thing.
So they were all kind of like in the same digital space.
Yeah, basically.
Huh. So this really does raise a lot of questions, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Like, what were they talking about?
Yeah.
And like on what platform?
Right.
This is important for Washington, D.C., for sure.
Big time.
And, you know, for our listeners, too.
That's right.
It's a big deal.
So our mission today is to, like, break this whole thing down for you.
Okay.
We're going to dig into what's been reported, check out the different opinions that have come up, and figure out why this specific thing has caused so much debate.
Sounds good.
And as usual, we're sticking to the information that you gave us.
Right.
Which in this case is the report from Times Now.
Times.
Yeah.
Now, okay, cool. So let's start with Jeffrey Goldberg's side of the story.
Okay.
What did he say exactly?
All right. So according to the Times Now article, Goldberg said that he was added to a Signal group chat.
Okay.
But this wasn't just any group chat.
Right.
It supposedly had 18 high-ranking officials from the Trump administration.
Wow, 18 people.
Yeah. And like we mentioned before, the big names that come up are Vice President J.D. Vance, National Security Advisor Michael Waltz,
okay,
and then Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth.
18 high-ranking officials in a messaging app.
Yeah.
That seems kind of crazy for talking about, like, sensitive stuff.
Right.
So what else did Goldberg say about, like, what they were talking about in this chat?
So he said that in this chat, Vice President Vance brought up some concerns about the administration's plans for Yemen.
So there were disagreements happening within the group?
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Well, you know, that kind of stuff happens all the time in any administration.
Right.
But here's where it gets interesting.
Yeah.
According to Goldberg, this is where it gets interesting.
Okay.
Goldberg reported that Pete Hegseth laid out a whole strike plan right there in the Signal chat.
Wow.
Like, he went into specifics.
Really?
The targets, the weapons, even like the order of the attack.
Like he gave away all the details.
That's what Goldberg is saying.
Wow.
That's going way beyond just talking strategy, you know?
Right.
He's getting into like the nitty gritty of a military operation.
Yeah, that seems a little risky.
A little bit, yeah.
So what happened then?
Well, Goldberg said the strikes against the Houthis happened at 1:45 p.m. Eastern time.
Oh, wow.
Just like the plan supposedly laid out in the chat.
So everything lined up perfectly with what he shared.
According to Goldberg, yeah. And the Times Now article says this whole thing caused a huge uproar in D.C.
You mean like a scandal?
Basically, and it wasn't just one political side freaking out.
Really?
Both Republicans and Democrats were worried about a possible security breach.
Oh, wow. So this was a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, this goes beyond just leaked information, right?
Yeah.
It makes you wonder about how sensitive information is handled these days.
Like, are things changing?
Exactly. Like, are we moving away from those old secure ways of communicating and using these quick digital chats for everything?
That's a good question.
It is.
Okay, so that's what Goldberg is saying.
Right.
But how did Pete Hegseth react to all of this?
Well, his response was pretty blunt. He called Jeffrey Goldberg a deceitful and highly discredited so-called journalist.
Wow, he really went after him.
Yeah, it seems like his first move was to attack the reporter's credibility.
To make people doubt his story.
Exactly.
But did he actually say anything about the accusations themselves?
He did. He talked about how great the military operation was.
Oh, really?
Saying, we will ultimately decimate the Houthis.
Strong words.
But when they asked him directly about sharing war plans through text messages, he completely denied it.
What did he say?
He said, nobody was texting war plans, and that's all I have to say about that.
So he completely shut it down.
Pretty much.
So now we've got this huge contradiction.
Right.
Goldberg saying that detailed plans were shared in a chat that Hegseth was in, and Hegseth saying that never happened.
Two totally different stories.
And this is where the White House comes in and makes things even more complicated.
Oh, how so?
Well, the Times Now article says that White House National Security Council spokesman Brian Hughes confirmed that the text chain that was reported on seems to be real.
Oh, so they're admitting that the Signal group chat that Goldberg was talking about actually existed?
Yeah, they are.
Wow, that's a pretty big piece of the puzzle.
Right.
But what's interesting is that the way they explain it is totally different from the security breach stuff that came out at first.
How so?
Well, Hughes said that they're trying to figure out how a wrong number got added to the chat.
So maybe Goldberg wasn't supposed to be in there?
It seems like it.
A wrong number, though.
Yeah.
If it was meant to be a secure chat for important people, how did someone who wasn't supposed to be there get added?
That is a really good question.
It makes you think.
And the way the White House is spinning the content of the chat is pretty interesting, too.
What do you mean?
They're saying this text thread shows how well senior officials work together and coordinate on policy.
So they're trying to make it sound like a good thing.
Yeah, they're presenting it as a positive example of communication.
Interesting.
And Hughes also said, the ongoing success of the Houthi operation demonstrates that there were no threats to our service members or our national security.
So basically they're saying that even if Goldberg was in the chat, by mistake, nothing bad happened because of it.
Yeah, that's their take.
So let me get this straight. The White House says the chat is real. Goldberg being there was an accident. But it wasn't a big deal because it proves how well they communicate. And it didn't put national security at risk.
You got it.
That's so different from the whole uproar we talked about before.
Yeah, I know, right?
It's like they're looking at the same thing but seeing something totally different.
Exactly. And for our listeners, what's important here is that these are very different accounts.
Yeah.
You've got this well-known journalist giving specific details about sensitive information being shared, maybe in a place where it shouldn't have been.
Right.
Then you've got a former defense secretary saying that's not true at all.
Yeah.
And then the White House says, yeah, the chat happened, but it was for good reason and nobody was in danger.
It's like a puzzle with missing pieces.
Definitely.
The stuff that Goldberg says was shared, the targets, the weapons, the order of the attack, it really makes you question Hegseth's denial.
Oh, totally.
Like what was actually said in that chat and what was the context.
It makes you wonder.
It does.
And this brings up a really important point about how we communicate.
Okay.
Even on a platform that's supposed to be super secure, like Signal.
Wow.
When you've got a bunch of high-level people in a group chat,
Yeah.
the chances of something getting out or being misunderstood are much higher.
Even if it's encrypted.
Even then, it doesn't matter how good the platform's encryption is.
Interesting.
There's always that human element.
The potential for mistakes.
Exactly.
And the fact that the White House is investigating how that wrong number got added means they know something went wrong procedurally.
Right, even if they don't think it put national security in danger.
So they're admitting there was a slip-up.
Yeah, they're acknowledging that Goldberg wasn't supposed to be part of those conversations.
It's pretty wild.
It is.
So for you listening, this whole situation gives you a glimpse into how complicated communication is at the top levels of government in this digital world we live in.
Right, it's not as simple as it used to be.
Like these discussions about stuff that could seriously affect national security, they're happening in places that would have been unthinkable a while ago.
It's a new world.
And it highlights how the same facts can be seen in completely different ways.
Yeah, depending on who's looking at them.
Was this a big security mess with potentially serious consequences?
Or was it just a modern and efficient way for important officials to get things done?
The Times Now article lays out all these different viewpoints.
It does.
So we can consider all the angles without being pushed in any particular direction.
I think what's really interesting here is this tension.
What tension?
The tension between needing to communicate quickly in critical situations
Okay.
and the need to keep things secret and secure. Ah, I see what you mean.
This incident really shows how tricky that balance can be.
Yeah, it definitely does.
It's a tough one.
All right, so let's recap everything for you.
Okay.
We've got Goldberg's report saying that detailed plans for military action in Yemen were shared in a Signal group chat with top Trump administration officials.
Right.
And he specifically said that then Defense Secretary Hegseth was the one who laid out all the details. Then we have Hegseth totally denying these claims and attacking Goldberg's credibility.
Right.
And in the middle of all this, we have the White House confirming that the chat existed.
Yeah.
But they're saying Goldberg being there was an accident. and that the whole thing was just a good example of officials working together.
And that it didn't put national security at risk.
Exactly.
So basically, this whole deep dive comes down to this clash.
Yeah.
A very specific public accusation
Right.
being met with a strong denial, while the government acknowledges that the communication happened but spins it in a completely different way.
It is a mess.
And that brings us to our final thought for you to consider.
Okay, shoot.
Considering all these different stories and what the White House has said, what does this whole thing tell us about how communication is changing at the highest levels of government?
That's a good question.
How do we balance being transparent with keeping things secret in this world where we're all connected digitally?
Especially when it comes to something as important as national security.
Exactly. It gives you a lot to think about as you read the news and see how officials respond to things like this.
Absolutely. It's a conversation that's just getting started.
It is.
We're just at the beginning.
And we'll keep diving into it.
Definitely.
Yeah, sure.
Fascinating stuff.
It really is.
It really is.
Thanks for listening.
See ya.
See ya.